Joining us now to weigh in on those issues sounding the Marcos administration and who stands to benefit from these. Veteran political strategist Alan Herman. Alan, nice to see you again. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Carmina. Thanks for having me again. And wow, a lot of things have happened in the last few days, right?
I know. But first of all, I do want to thank you for agreeing to reschedule this. This conversation was supposed to happen yesterday, but we all know what went down yesterday. So thank you for being so gracious in accepting our invitation once again. Thanks again. Okay, so the past First, yesterday we were supposed to talk about, the past 24 hours, but those 24 hours has now stretched. And it seems like every single day there's a new development. I just want to focus now first on the revelation coming from the former Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, as confirmed by colleague Karen Davila, that he did not resign, that he was let go. So my question is, you're in the business of messaging. Right, Alan. But what's your take on this? Did the palace just lie to the Filipino people with regard to the circumstances surrounding the departure of the former executive secretary from the cabinet?
Well, there's no two ways about it. If the palace says one thing and there is a denial, and if there is evidence that he was indeed let go rather than him resigning, then yes, there's no way to call that. That's being disingenuous. I can see why the palace would have tried to get away with that, but it's really a bad look any way you slice it. If it had been a resignation, that was already a bad look, because wow, why change your ES at this juncture when there is so much upheaval, there's so much confusion. The people are looking for strength and a government that has a spine, essentially. But now, even made worse, if the allegation that he was actually just let go unceremoniously is true, because that would show that the administration actually caved to outside forces and let him go without much fanfare or without any consideration.
What kind of ripple effects do you think this would have on anything and everything that will come from the palace now, considering that the former ES is now saying that he did not resign, he was let go? So does this now put suspicion or a cloud of doubt over anything and everything that comes from the palace from this point moving forward?
Well, from a propagandist lens, I would say that let 1,000 memes bloom. Let 1,000 art cards bloom. I'm sure specifically the DDS supporters will definitely pounce on this, and every chance they get. Claire Castro is already their favorite target, and she's acted like a lightning rod for all of the criticism of the DDS. You can imagine that this will be shoved in her face every chance that anti-Marcos supporters that's an oxymoron, anti-Marcos forces have any gripes. They will just say there's nothing to be believed, that the palace contradicts itself, that you can't believe a word that they say. So yes, this will have long-term repercussions.
What do you think about how the palace has been handling things so far? The back-to-back resignations, which we now, at least for one, know that it wasn't a resignation. They seem to be functioning above the fray. We had Dave Gomez here yesterday saying that the president continues to work. But can they really, at this point, without being dragged down by the politics, it's not anymore just noise, by the current situation where the country finds itself in? Alan.
Well, I take every opportunity to quote Albert Einstein and his famous saying of insanity is doing the same thing all over again and expecting a different result. Thus far, the president and the institution itself has taken really massive hits before in terms of fiery statements and accusations hurled against it. And the president has always remained quiet. The president has never issued a statement. It's always been statements by proxy, issued by either the palace spokesperson. The first lady has already weighed in the past with that whole brouhaha with the vice president threatening their family and the former speaker's family for the world to see. And threatening to throw to throw their his father into the sea. So these are really, really strongly worded accusations and statements, and yet he has never replied. And how's that worked? How has that worked for them so far? Clearly, unless he makes a statement and starts to push back, these things will keep on continuing and persisting, and people will just take pot shots because the mentality right now could possibly be, well, this guy never pushes back anyway, so we can just push and push and push him.
But what are you expecting from the president? What do you want him to say? I mean, I asked the very same question to Dave yesterday, Secretary Gomez yesterday, and he said the president has been reporting to the people, the president has been talking to the people, and he has been holding press conferences, he has his podcast, he has been saying how, at the very least, irate he has been with the whole corruption mess. But from your vantage point, what does he need to say at this point in time? Remember, we're 3.5 years into his administration, Alan.
I think he needs to issue a strong, categorical, fiery, well-worded statement to debunk all of this and bear some teeth, if not teeth, fangs. The president should, what we call muscle flex in our industry. He should muscle flex a little bit to send a clear message that, yes, I am known to be non-confrontational. Yes, I am known to be a peace guy rather than a conflict guy. Conflict averse is the adjective always being used to describe our president. But I think it's high time that he should also show that you can only push the president and the institution too far. I think he should issue a strong statement. I think that if there were any violations in terms of slander or libel or even inciting to sedition, he should take these seriously and file the appropriate charges. Because again, right now this is what the people needs. We need to know that there is a guy in command who's got steel in his spine, so to speak. Not a conflict-averse, peace-loving guy. I don't think that's what we need right now.
By the way, you were about to say something else, and thank you for catching yourself before you said what I know you were going to say. So thank you for respecting the program. Okay, but the strongly worded statement and the strong action that you want coming from the president, he had the perfect opportunity with letting go his former executive secretary, right? He could have said, they didn't resign out of delicadeza. They could have said they were fired, because that's, if you were to believe Bersamin, that's exactly what happened. So why couldn't they have told the truth when that's exactly what happened? And now you're going to expect them to come out with a strongly worded statement when they could have done so, but they chose not to.
Again, I'm trying to make odds and ends of it. For me, it was a strange choice. You're absolutely right. I think if they were going to, if this was, I mean, obviously hindsight is 2020, so they probably didn't know that it would leak out that former executive secretary Bersamin would actually say that he was let go rather than resigning. But I suppose they wanted to give him a graceful exit. I mean, that's the only possible. That's the only thing that computes in my head. They were probably giving him a graceful exit. They were probably, well, in Filipino, yung bigyan mo naman ng kahihiyan yung tao. Because otherwise, the interpretation might be, oh, this guy was named in as one of the suspects in this massive corruption, and he resigned out of delicadeza, so that still gives him that, air of being a good guy rather than fired. That means I believe the accusations against him and I got rid of him immediately. So I suppose that's the only way I can make odds or ends of that decision.
Before we got to talk about that, you were talking about, the president being kind-hearted. You have no less than Senator Panfilo Lacson seemingly clearing the president of all these accusations as well. But this mapait narrative that the president is being kind and all that he's not confrontational and confrontational averse, I mean, how far can this bring the president? How far can they use this?
Exactly. How far can they use this indeed? From my lens as a communicator, I could be wrong, but I think the data seems to back it up. We do all sorts of data reading in our agency. Right now, the people are looking for a little bit of fang bearing from the president and just really double down. Congress is doing its job. The House had that press con yesterday or the other day wherein they categorically denied the allegations. They defended the former speaker. They defended the president. I think it's high time that the president himself does this as well, because otherwise they're going to keep on taking pot shots at this guy until he fights back. That's my opinion. I think that a well-worded, either that's a video or a statement, just showing, hey, you can only push me too far, and then I'm going to use all the resources of the executive department to come down on you if you keep on abusing my being conflict averse. I think that would help at least stem the tide a little bit.
Let's pretend for a moment, Alan, that you're Galactus, right? And you're viewing things from, this far side of the universe, and you're looking at, everything, every single moving part, and every single piece of mud that's being thrown at whoever. What is sticking at this point? Who's suffering the most at this point? Which narrative is sticking at this point?
Obviously, well, again, a Galactus roleplay deserves a Galactus universal answer. So I'll try to compartmentalize that. In terms of most recent events, I think the initial QSS or quick sentiment scan numbers are coming in. Of course, we can only trend that after 8 to 12 days. But from the initial numbers, it seems that Senator Amy had a big miscalculation in her speech. I don't think she probably imagined the outcome of that to be a little different. I would ascertain, because after her speech, based on just very, very initial and rough quick sentiment scan numbers, it seems that a lot of people were actually turned off by that speech. And it left her politically, very, very much politically exposed. Because if she thought that the Duterte diehard supporters would embrace her because of her speech, the opposite seems to be happening. Right now, they're viewing her with mistrust. Because if she can do that to her own brother, to her own blood, then maybe they might do that to VP Inday Sara when the time comes. She might end up betraying VP Inday Sara because they're viewing this as a betrayal rather than courage. Obviously, the Marcos loyalists despise her now, and the yellow-pink supporters never liked her to begin with. So what happened to her base? She practically eroded her base with that one speech. In terms of this explosion of this three-part explosion of Zaldico, you know what? There's a glimmer of hope, because perhaps 5-8 years ago, this might have been, a coffin, the nail in the coffin of an administration. But people seem to be more critical now in actually sifting through his claims and fact-checking them. So there's that culture of fact-checking. There's this culture of not taking everything at face value, giving it thoughtful analysis and insight. So I think that's also a very, very curious happening right now. And I think for me, Galactus is looking at Earth, and one of the biggest blips for me is that the INC actually canceled their last day. For me, that speaks volumes. Why did they cancel their last day of the rally? Of course, officially they're saying, we were able to get our message through. But was the INC equally shocked with that speech of Senator Amy? Were they like, whoa, wait a minute. This is a accountability rally. We weren't expecting this, right?
Are you wondering out loud, or do you know this for sure?
Well, I'm wondering out loud. There you go. See, talking about respecting the program. There you go. I'm wondering out loud, throwing it out to the universe. Because why would they end their rally so abruptly? When in fact, this was a 3-day rally. I'm sure the INC, being as organized as they are, had the logistics, had the mapping. I'm sure they had all complete arrangements for 3 days. And then suddenly, abruptly, after that speech, no more third day. So maybe they themselves are taking a step back and thinking, wait, does that put our the church in a bad light? Did this woman, did this senator just implicitly say that we endorsed a candidate that she knew was allegedly drug-addled at that time? So how does that make the church look, diba?
Okay.
So
If Senator Amy Marcos's speech subtracted or, in your words, even eroded her base, did it necessarily add to the points of the president?
I wouldn't say necessarily add. I'm sure he'll take a hit. I'm sure he will take a hit. Of that much, I'm certain. Even without looking at the numbers, I'm sure his it's reputational damage, as we call it. But again, it won't be as catastrophic, I think, had she delivered a different speech, had she taken a different line, and certainly not admitted that she knew it from 2022. I think that was the major determinant, because that just really transformed her from a crusader to somebody who's complicit. Because she said she had known about it since they were young, and even as he was planning his presidential campaign. So I think the president would have taken a far bigger hit had Senator Amy delivered a differently worded speech.
Let's talk about the vice president. Where is she in all of this? What is sticking? What's not sticking? Is she surviving? And if so, why?
I would think she's not only surviving. I would think that all of this would cause a blip. I just find it really, really. Only in the Philippines. I just find it really, really odd that former Congressman Zaldico is now suddenly the patron saint of the DDS, when he was once their most despised villain, and suddenly he comes out with those 3 videos, and suddenly he has transformed into El Cid, the great hero, the holiest of holies. So I find that really, really odd. But I think this benefits VP Inday Sara. Maybe not a big jump, but certainly these events of more corruption being uncovered, more details coming out, for as long as it's directed towards administration, or it has anything to do with the current administration, then any platform of change or reform, which the vice president will certainly run on if she decides to run, will benefit her.
Do you think that this is only, collaterally benefiting from the revelations of Zaldico? Or do you see signs? Let's put on your strategist hat now. Do you see signs that maybe there is a tactical alliance here behind the scenes, and this is not just the vice president collaterally benefiting from the revelations of the former congressman?
I mean, you can just talk about the timing, right, Carmina? I mean, right when the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings resumed, suddenly there are these 3 videos that have whoosh effects coming out. It's delivered like a showbiz exclusive. Kulang na lang boses ni Tito Boy Abunda yung nagda-narrate, di ba? So these are, the timing. And then after that, immediately was the rally, and then this fiery speech by Senator Amy. So yeah, I think there are, if I was a betting man, I would say this is orchestrated and planned. If I was a betting man, I'm not saying anything conclusively, of course, for obvious reasons. But if I was a betting man, I would say this was all engineered.
So the vice president not taking any hits at this point?
Right now, no. I think the vice president is happily coasting along. She hasn't been visible. She did release one statement about the DepEd, which largely got buried by other headlines. So I think she's, you used the word collateral plus, diba? She's benefiting collaterally. I think that's what's happening, but was that collateral plus orchestrated or planned? I would think so, just looking at the timing.
What about Martin Romualdez, former Speaker of the House? His name has been mentioned several times by several characters. Is anything sticking? Is he taking a hit?
He's most assuredly taken several hits. Number one, he was ousted as speaker. Well, I wouldn't say ousted, but he was he found the necessity. He found it necessary to step down as speaker. I think his reputation, just looking at the numbers on social media, of course, social media is the wild, wild west. We haven't actually done a boots on the ground, face to face, warm body survey, but just on social media, he's negative, negative, negative.
Yeah, but is he, by him stepping down, was it necessarily taking a hit or was it keeping safe?
Well, I think it's a mixture of both. I think he needed to step down so that he could allow the conversation to be diverted elsewhere to keep safe. But I would think that there was also pressure for him to step down as well because he was taking these many hits and he was dragging down other branches of government with him and other government agencies with him. I would think so. Let's see. I mean, the ultimate litmus test of that is, will charges be levied against him, and or will he be will warrants be served against him? So that for me is the ultimate litmus test.
Well, as in all campaigns that will be run, it doesn't matter if it's like a campaign for the next electoral season or whatever, but it's essentially just getting your message across, right? Given this current situation, where there is a culture now, or this cloud of distrust and the lack of confidence between and among all these characters and the institutions, what is the clear messaging for the Filipino people, and how do we get that across? When you're coming from, let's say, from the government side, for you to get to the finish line, which is 2028, what should be the clear path? And for the public, what should we be seeing at this point?
All right, from the government side, I think the only possible end game. Let me unpack that a little better. What should be the priority right now? It's really accountability, and it's really jailing those who are guilty. The chant is "Ikulong na yan mga kurakot." That is the people's chant. That is the nation's chant. That's what the people are looking for. Jail the guilty. Make them accountable. That's what the government should be focusing on. So I think the only possible end game for them, the only thing that will tide them through, is if they do that. If somebody actually gets hauled off to jail, and is the full weight of the law is levied against them. So I think that's the only way the government will see this through, not through resignations. The people are not looking for resignations, revamps. Those are not the scalps that the people are looking for. The people are looking for the scalps of those involved in the flood control anomaly. After that, in terms of messaging for 2028, I'm hoping the people, to the second part of your question, I'm hoping that the people will learn and change their order of attribute preferences. Because before, the people's order of attribute preferences were only limited to helps. I want the guy that will help me with healthcare, education, livelihood, peace and order, and social services. Not fully realizing that helps, those 5 points, can only be made possible if the funds are not stolen, if the funds are not pocketed. Because the thing that will fund helps services is honesty in public service. Wag magnakaw. So I'm hoping there is that shift in the electorate's order of attribute preference in terms of choosing candidates. For as long as may bahid din ang korupsyon, wag nyo nang iwag.
Let's go full circle and go back to the first topic at hand. We talked about the non-resignation of E.S. Bersamin. When you talk about at this point, you know how spins go, right? And you know how the messaging should be. If the people can't trust this this administration to be honest with such a simple thing
Right.
as it was just communicating the departure and the
And so
circumstances
unnecessary,
surrounding
right,
it.
Karina?
What's
So
that?
unnecessary.
Yeah.
So unnecessary. I mean, right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so should this government now say no to spins and let the mantra be just be honest? And can the people actually expect that from them? And you're talking about honesty just a while ago.
And yes, Carmina, and maybe one day we shall have free gas, and maybe one day we can breathe underwater, and maybe one day food will be free, and we can all fly in the clouds so that we can avoid traffic. I'm being, of course, levity aside. That's super idealistic. I wish it were so, from our lips to God's ears. However, spin will always be part of the communications process. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying not to talk myself out of a career in a job. But you see, spin is a often maligned and misunderstood term. If spin is done right, spin is actually the truth in telling the truth in your favor, but always anchored on the truth. You do not make stuff up. You do not lie. You do not disseminate fake news. Spin is just telling the truth, but in your favor. At least that's how I define it. And that's how our agency does it.
And that's how we end this conversation. Veteran political strategist Alan Herman there joining us this noon. Thanks again. Always appreciate it.
Thanks, Carmina. And I'm so sorry I wasn't able to wave my copy of the
Constitution?
Philippine Constitution.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah. Well, all I have is this eruptions book. But I hope it does the job.
By the way,
Right,
thanks for reminding me that because that was the argument of the former ES, Vic Rodriguez, that he is only fighting what is constitutional, but stops at the point that it will benefit the vice president. First of all, your thoughts on that? Do you feel that argument is flawed given that he has his anti-corruption advocacy as well, and the vice president has also some corruption allegations? Go ahead.
I don't think you can, well, at the very base level of it, I don't think you can talk credibly about something when there is a very, very obvious bias already at play. Meaning, if you're talking about accountability, if you're talking about anti-corruption, and you're calling for the resignation and or ouster of a president to benefit your own preferred candidate, I think you shouldn't even be in the conversation at all. So that's my first reaction. That my second reaction is, wow, it's amazing that you just happen to have a copy of the Constitution available on your desk at all times to waive. That's pretty amazing to me.
Well, it's either that or his book. Alan,
Right.
Alan, we have to stop. We have to stop ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us this noon. Until the next.